So we will come back again. Yeah, you can start now.
All right. Good evening, good afternoon, dear audience, depending on your time zone. I'm TSUN hosting Mayak Deng Aruei, on behalf of Africa World Books on his new book, The Connects, The Disconnects, The Disconnects, Tribes, Governance, and Power in South Sudan. Mayak, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tira Win. I would like to thank the audience and on your behalf, the African World Book, and on my behalf, I would like to give a great thanks to everyone watching today. It's a great pleasure to have me on your show.
Welcome. Let's start off. Give us a brief background of who you are. Who is Mayak Deng?
Mayak Deng Aruei is a South Sudanese. And as of now, I'm a South Sudanese American. I was born in South Sudan way before South Sudan became an independent. It used to be Sudan. We split because of the crisis that many of you may be aware of. So now I'm a South Sudanese American. I live in the United States in North Dakota, Fargo.
Great.
I have been living in America for 21 years. I moved here in 2001, and initially I was in North Carolina, Greensboro. Then I moved to California. I spent much of the time in California. 2 years ago, I moved to Fargo, North Dakota. While here in the United States, I done a number of things. I went to school, I have a family, I've been visiting back and forth to Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan. So that is who I am.
Great. So, in summary, what is the content of the disconnects, tribes, governance, and power in South Sudan?
Okay, I will start. I'll leave the disconnect. Then I'll get into the three part of the title.
Right.
The tribe. We South Sudanese or African in general, we live in a tribal society. We have 64 tribes, 68 to be exact. Because if you go detail by detail, we have about 68 in South Sudan. Because we live in a tribal state, our tribal setting is different in a way, many of you know. It's different in a way that 64 tribes, we consider themselves as people of South Sudan. But in reality, we have 64 nations in South Sudan. We don't have unified cultures. We don't have unified religion. We have different norms. But because of the colonial ways of grouping African, way before 1947, we were governed differently from the north, the rest of the Sudan. And we would have been a nation state before 1955. But because of the condition in the traditional society, the British did not think that we can have a state of our own. So when Sudan was granted independence in 1956, it was supposed to be December 19, 1955. But because of the crisis of August 18, 1955, there was already a war in the South. So they delayed to 1/1, 1956. And they set the boundaries of what is now South Sudan. So we became part of the Sudan by default. So because we live in a tribal society and our setup is quite different, it's very unique. I said earlier that we are 64 nations in what is South Sudan. We are now on the run, running away from ourselves, South Sudanese. And we consider ourselves, we're supposed to have one national identity. But when you look around, we are more enemies to ourselves than foreigners to us. So because of the tribe, we have all the crises. We don't have unified substance that bring us together. So that is part of the title. Now we get into governance. 64 tribes, 64 nations. We have a setup from a tribe to sub-tribe to clan to section. All these categories are nation in themselves. The only difference between what is a nation state and the tribal society is the size. So now we have, for all the years, over the 50 years, we fought for independence. So now we have the state called South Sudan. But we have not completed state formation because of these 64 tribes who consider themselves 64 nations. The state formation is in progress since 2005. So we have a governance issue here. We could not unify the system within 64 tribes to make a nation state called South Sudan. We have a crisis. We have governance crisis where the nation of South Sudan, landmass, is supposed to be for all of us. We can live anywhere. Not long ago, some part of South Sudan are in crisis. As I speak now, South Sudan within the nation of South Sudan are chasing themselves away from the country. We have people in the refugee camp in Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan. Can you believe that we fought Sudanese for 50 years? And when we gain independence, we create a crisis within, and we had to run to the north. North is more peaceful than us. So we have a governance crisis. So as a part of the title, now we have the power. This 64 tribe, they have power struggle. And you know, some of these 64 tribes are not actually tribe. For example, Dinka is a society, is not a tribe. Long before the SPLM, SPLA started, some tribe of the Dinka did not know themselves. They have very unique cultures. They have very unique customs. A tribe is not people who speak one language. Take, for example, Somalia. Somalia has tribe. They speak one language. They have one religion. They have tribe. So Dinka society is not a tribe, it's a society. It's more like a nation state. Go to the next example, the Nuer. Nuer is not a tribe. People as far as Juko and people as far as Mayom, they have differences. They believe different things. They only have language. So now, because we have a tribal society, there is a power struggle. We have seen rebellion in South Sudan more than any other nation in Africa. Why do we have this? Every tribe, every section, they want to have some kind of interest. And they want to protect that interest. And they have to use their best man to go get that. So there is a power struggle. After 2011, people went back to the bush. They went to the bush as non-commissioned. They were not commissioned officers. After 6 months, they commissioned themselves. They came back with the rank of Major General. Not because they fought any major war, but they were fighting for their tribal interest. So they want to come back with the military rank so they can protect that interest. So there is power in every corner of South Sudan. There's a power struggle. As I talk now, we have the parliament with 550, more than the United States. And we have little over 12 million people. Are these representing people or themselves? 550. And if you go back into the state, there are more MPs. Even Butchis are being represented in the government. Areas where nobody is there. For example, let's go to Jonglei. Only certain places where people live. And if we have to be realistic, this location could be the places represented by MPs, not imaginary line, not location. You know, in 2015, we have 28, 32 states. We have more counties, we have more MPs, we have more commissioners, we have more everything. It's no longer about, you know, building the state of South Sudan. It's about protecting interests of a certain people. So now I have explained the three parts. Let's go back to the disconnect. Why do we have crisis? It's because of tribe. It's because of governance. It's because of power struggle. So that is the title of the book. I'm only covering the macro of the title. The fine details are in the book. It's 228 pages. I'm not going to read line by line. There is time put in here. The fine detail, if you are interested, you will read the book.
Right.
So you can go to the next question.
Okay. The second, the second question. Okay. Remember, I remember the comprehensive peace agreement that was signed in 2005 allowed the South to withdraw from the southern region, the then southern region, and SPLA moved to Juba, and headed by Salva Kiir, formed the government. And in your book, chapter 1, you describe the inception of the government as unreasonable beginning. Why do you think it is unreasonable, or it was unreasonable?
It is unreasonable in a way. You fought for 50 years to have a nation. I remember back in 2007 or 2006, the president of Eritrea was addressing South Sudanese leaders. And he was like, I don't think you Sudanese or South Sudanese have a plan for the people of South Sudan or the Sudan. Because you know for sure you fought for 50 years. And there is a referendum coming up. You should have set up a system. You know what became SPLM, SPLA? Majority of people were students. Majority of people were from the villages. But because people were fighting war, we needed manpower. So people with capability to lead were commissioned. They rode through the ranks and file of the SPLM, SPLA. They become leaders. When the dust settled, we signed a comprehensive peace agreement. Now we start thinking about, if the referendum, if major protocol of the CPA are implemented, and we have the referendum as successful, we will have a nation called South Sudan or whatever, Nile or whatever. But then the idea of succeeding from the rest of the Sudan was no longer in danger, because you have the Troika. They were protecting this. They say, we don't want this crisis. People like you and me might have born in the wartime. I was raised in the wartime. I've been to some bases. I've been to Omeri, Loboni, Nottingham. I was one of the Red Armies. So when they did census in 2008, I was in wartime. They did census. The results show that 72% were under 30 years of age, or 72% were under 32 years of age. We were left with 3 years for referendum to take place. We knew for sure that over 90% of the South Sudan will vote for secession, because all we knew about the Sudanese government were a bombardment, relative loss, never seen some of the cousins, uncles. So if we are given this chance to vote, we voted for independent state. But then we go back. Did we have a plan for the state? You have all these officers. When they did some assessment, they had like 80 general back then. 80 general for a small place like South Sudan was a big deal. But then they were, they were commissioning more people. So the junior officers become high ranking. The number of major general is skyrocket. Now you have a state coming up. Some of these foot soldiers, younger one, will be commissioned. The older one will have to be sent to prison system, the fire brigade, the police, and then the state army. Did we have a plan for these people? They need money. They need some kind of a treatment because they were traumatized. And of course, they have huge family. They have to support. All these were not in place. So the war started in 2010 when the first ever election was done. We never had a government before. The government in Khartoum was too far away. And some of the few people who went there, they went for themselves. South Sudan was just a jungle. So we had a government for the first time since the creation. So people want to get into the government. Some people contested for a local seat. When they lost the election, they took up arms against the regional government in Juba. It's part of a reasonable beginning. Why would you take up arms against autonomous region? And you should have known better to the officers. You should have known better. Any disagreement that will lead into arm race, arm struggle among the officers will displace the population. And the independent will be in danger. Well, the referendum did go through. It became successful. But then you have all these splinter group in the bushes, all the region of South Sudan. We were having problem with ambushes. Let's say, for example, how many people have died between Juba and Bo Road, Yei and Juba, Torit and Juba, Numili and Juba, and the rest of the South Sudan. It was a unreasonable beginning. But then the government we had in Juba had seen all this. It still did not put in place. When it was pocket that election would be held in 2015. So in 2012, people who were interested in taking up seat in the presidency start mobilizing people. Back then, you remember, in 2007, 2008, all the way to 2009, we had a lot of money. We could have built a state police. We could have built a national army, a unified, non-tribal, train them, give them the incentive that will make them think that if they take up arms, they will lose something. But in a society where you have nothing to lose and you have more to gain, for example, in 2013, when the war erupted, people joined the war. Some people actually became rich. They were looting. They were setting villages on fire because they want to equalize. They say, okay, let's destroy it. So when they sign peace letter, all about we will start from scratch. It was a reasonable beginning. So the most vulnerable, women, children, elderly, they die. Crossfire, killed intentionally. Some of them were displaced. You know, South Sudan was the most celebrated nation. I have been watching from day one. I have to tell you, when they signed the Machakos peace agreement, I was monitoring here. And you can go to the BBC website and type in my name. You will find my article on July 2002. I wrote a small piece. So I have been following this since the Machakos. And every step, I have seen it, I have witnessed it. Because I myself, I wanted to go back to South Sudan. And I believe everybody, everyone, whether in East Africa, in North Africa, in the Middle East, or in Australia, Western Europe, they wanted to go back. But because we have a reasonable beginning, where are you going to go? Now you are used to where you drink clean water. You have a little bit of ice cream, whatever you want, soda. You can have it whenever you have it. But because there is a reasonable beginning there, of course there is a nation called South Sudan. But then some of the things happening in the country make it unlivable. We cannot live there. So
Great.
those are some of the unreasonable beginnings, which
Great.
would have been avoided at all costs.
Right. Dear audience, you are listening or watching a show on the launch of the Disconnects, Tribes, Governance, and Power in South Sudan. I'm T.S. Ayuen, and we are going for a short break. We'll be back. Stay tuned. Go on. Operator Law. Well, English novelist George Orwell, in his book The Animal Farm, says all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And you have analogized that in your you are watching a show on the launch of The Disconnects, Tribes, Governance, and Power in South Sudan, written by Mayak Deng Aruei. I'm your host, Tia Sayun, on behalf of Africa World Books. Mayak, I said earlier, George Orwell, the English novelist, wrote in Animal Farm that all animals are equals, but some animals are more equal than others. And I saw you have an analogy starting your book by saying that all states are not created equal. Why do you think the states are unequal?
Okay, I do think that the states are not equal because of the following reason. Any nation state, form or created, came out of any region or a country, they have some fundamental principle that made it possible for the people to come up with an idea that we need a nation and we want to govern ourselves. But having the idea of having a nation doesn't make all the states equal. In South Sudan, we really wanted so bad to have a country because we have seen people in the region, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all the way to the Southern African country. We wanted to live with them. But then we don't have the same mindset. When we have this nation state, will we be able to manage it? Well, we have created South Sudan out of Sudan. We have resources. We have more resources than Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania all combined. But because we don't have the will to run that for the benefit of South Sudanese, so we have the resources. The rest people they have the organizational leadership to manage themselves. So our state is wealthy, but we don't have the managers. So all states are not equal. We have tribe in Kenya. We have the same tribe in South Sudan, similar tribe. They live in different nation states, but they don't behave the same way. So Kenya and South Sudan are not equal. Uganda and South Sudan are not equal. Take for example, we have the actually both sides of the borders. We have the Mahdi, the Aringa, the Lugwari, the Kakwa in Uganda, in South Sudan, and in Congo. But the states are not equal. The way things are managed in Juba is not the same way they are managed in Kinshasa or in Kampala or in Nairobi. So the states are not equal.
All right. You also say that South Sudan is in the hands of significant others. Who are the significant others? And how is the country in the hands?
South Sudan is in the hand of significant others. We have resources in South Sudan. We have mineral, we have oil, we have the land, we have the water. But because people are interested to have a piece of South Sudan, these people come to South Sudan with their skills and they want to take piece of the cake. Back when I was going to South Sudan back and forth, I crossed into South Sudan from Lokishokio, from Namale. I went to Kaya, and you know, until now, you will have people bringing banana, mangoes, oranges from Uganda to South Sudan. And they make ton of money. We have the oil companies, the Malaysia, the Chinese, White Nile Petroleum, we have the India, and we have some local with the foreigners having a cheer So these people actually are stakeholders in South Sudan. Whatever action they take affects South Sudanese. And they are more powerful in influencing what the government does than us, the South Sudanese, whether you are in diaspora or in South Sudan. Some of these people have vested interest in South Sudan. They are more connected to our leaders than our citizens to their leaders. So South Sudan is in the hand of significant others. I remember back in the day, people will open up hotel in Juba. Some of them used to be trailers, you know very well. They would go to Uganda or Kenya and bring some worker there to run their restaurant and bars. These people, they offshore the money across the South Sudan border. And you know, South Sudan is not isolated. We have seen some report. Our nation wealth is being hidden somewhere. Somebody is banking our wealth and is protecting individual wealth. So South Sudan is in the hand of significant others. There are people more important to the government outside South Sudan. And they are taking from us. From now onward, if we don't make changes, we will end up losing the nation wealth to some foreign state. You know, back then, Gulu, Aruei, Ajumani, Lira, Jinja, they were too remote. I met some people back in the day. They left their teaching position. Some of them were teaching in secondary school. But they say if they do teach for 20 years, their retirement will be $200 a month. But they can make $200 a day. Let's go back to Juba. We have the River Nile water. We have tankers from outsiders. They go to the river, pump the water, sell it to us. They don't do any treatment. They don't filter the water. Is South Sudan not in the hand of significant others? And
All right.
our South Sudanese business people, they fear to make business in South Sudan. We run away from South Sudan while people are moving in. I was listening to a deputy mayor, Juba mayor. He was on the radio with a Mayak Deng Aruei. And he said that they have more than 10,000 Eritrean business people in Juba. Imagine, in a state of Eritrea with more than 10,000. His record is on a Mayak radio. 10,000 Eritrean in Juba making business. Is South Sudan not in the hand of significant others?
Okay, and don't you think it is our own? Don't you think it is the making of South Sudanese themselves that Ugandans are exporting their tomatoes, their vegetables, Eritreans are selling our own Nile water to us? Don't you think it is our own making?
What is our making in a way? Majority of us were from villages, and we tend to not like certain job. We are very picky. We pick and choose. Well, that is part of the issue. Our people don't have resources. The water tanker costs, let's say you're a dinka. You have to buy a truck. You will have to sell at least 10 cows or more to get that. But then, do you have the skill to run it? It is our own making in a way that we could have given young people a skill on how to do business and open up some microfinance, give them a loan, and let them have the truck, let them lease the truck for a couple of years, or if they have some sort of properties, you can use that as a collateral. And then say, okay, this is like this. Show them how to maintain the truck, how to fix the truck, how to run, the business itself. Because if you own some trucks, you will have drivers, you will have mechanics. All this need to be done, and people need to be trained. Our leadership in Juba at the state level, they never have a program. Let's go back to Kakuma back in the day. They have multi-purpose. There was one in Zone 3 and one in Zone 2. The UN came up with that because they amputated SPLA soldiers. They wanted to give them some kind of, skill. So they trained them how to choose. They give them the material for saw, and they train some people with a sewing machine. And then they open up Don Bosco, where you learn masonry, carpentry, you do some kind of welding. All these are trade, and they're very important. And if you train people like that, they will come home every night with at least a kilo of meat, 2 kg of sugar, a bread, something like that. But because our people don't have a skill, minus being picky, so these people are coming in and take supposedly. I remember they did some protest that, we don't want these people, they came and take our job and things like that. But if you have never run something like that, how are you going to do it if they leave? It's just like, they make money. And it's our making in a way that we did not train people. We did not give people the skill that they needed. So that's what it is.
You also describe the current leaders as having unlimited power, or they have case for unlimited power. How is that so?
When you are in government, there has to be two things for people. Well, in Africa, people get into government to make a living. But in some developed state, you get into government to make change. And when you have impacted the change that you wanted, you leave. Because you serve the people, you can create a business of your own, and your own name will make you money. But because getting into the government is a business in itself, so people want to live there until they die. And they do whatever they want. They do not follow the rule of law. I remember one of the leaders, when you reprint the Constitution and say there is a freedom expression, you are one of the people who have written extensively on the social media. And there is a limit. You make a lot of fun. People know you more than they have seen your faces because of the funny thing that you have written over the years. But some of your own writing can get you in trouble. Our leaders have unlimited power. They have quest for unlimited powers. They don't take criticism lightly. They are offended when certain things that they say in event are cheered or cited. So they want to be the face of the society for the rest of their life.
Okay. South Sudan broke away from the Sudan in 2011 officially. In chapter 3, you write saying that it copy pasted the divide and misrule of Khartoum. How?
They copy the Sudanese system. You know, the Sudanese government, all the government, you know, when we talk about the government, people think it is government come and go. You know, we can get into the government now, and you a minister, and I'm a minister, and if the president is replaced by election or whatever, we can lose our position and we become regular people. So that government is no longer there. But the Sudanese system, they used to, let's say, they have to find an enemy within you in order for them to rule you. So they want you to have some kind of crisis. So you focus on that. When we were part of the Sudan, the Sudanese government created and funded tribal conflict in the south. So they become engaged among themselves and don't focus on development, education, and all necessary things for life. That things has actually been copied and pasted in South Sudan. You would think there is a fighting in Jonglei. The next day there is a fighting in Eastern Equatoria. The next day there is a fighting in Warab, in Unity State, in Upper Nile. And the government is there. We have a national army. The Sudanese government back in the day, they let people fight themselves, give them time, so they can cause whatever necessary damage. And then you come later and say, oh, well, we make a buffer zone here, so you don't cross here. But the damage has already been done for the past 15 years. That's what has been going on. What the Sudanese government used to do in Khartoum is happening now. If you know there are some hot spots, let's say, for example, I was debating people back in 2008 while I was in Bo Town. I used to commute from Pariak to Padak, Marang, Anyidi, and all the way to Panyagur. I've been driving around. Some people think that, you know, I just read online. I have been in South Sudan. I've been to Morobo, Kaya, every corner. When I go there, I just blend in. You would think I'm from a cattle camp. Just blend in. Okay, I was asking people, why did we have Division 8 in Panpandia? When we know for sure some places as far as Anyidi, Duk, some part of the Nuer areas, we have tribal militias. They come there, raid cattle, abduct children. If it was not the Khartoum system, why do we have military barrack in the city? They are supposed to be protecting civilians. Cows are part of the economy. They need to be, we need meat, we need milk, we need horn for glue and everything else. They're used for marriage. We can sell them because we have a very large land where cow graze unlimited. You don't buy water, you don't buy grasses. But because the system in Khartoum, they care less. Let them engage themselves while we enjoy here, like they used to enjoy in Khartoum. South Sudan was looked at like a jungle when we were with the Sudanese. Well, it was a design. It was a deliberate design that they have to engage them so they remain there. Let's say you go back to Jonglei. We have small crises. And if you go deep, some of these have no benefit. Like everywhere. And they are causing more trouble. They're causing more hatred. This thing could be sorted in just a matter of hours. So it's a cartoon system. Okay, let me go one more thing.
Okay.
You know, Alfred Taban, he used to report in Khartoum. The Sudanese government, they used to censor reporting. You are a journalist. When you
Right.
research and you write an article about a situation, you have the facts. You did not create it, the story from nowhere. You become a victim. And you have the law here, the Constitution, freedom of expression, freedom of press. So where does it fit here? We have it in paper, so we can get donation from some rich countries that, they have a rule of law. Our Constitution is beautiful, actually. And it's larger, it covered more areas than the Constitution of the United States. But because we want to have it in paper, just like it was done in Khartoum, we can go after you, track you down for the things you have written. And there is no legal basis. It's a system in Khartoum. So the nation is being run with a Khartoum policy. Plus, members of the National Congress Party have taken over South Sudan. They do all the things that you know about. So it's a Sudanese, it's a Khartoum system. When John Garang was fighting the Sudanese government, they say Swara Dive has gone, Sadiq has gone, Nimeri came, Bashir came in, and he was like, I'm fighting Nimerism. It was a system. So that system has been brought to South Sudan. We have to talk openly. I know people are watching it, and it is what it is. You and me, we want to be free. For example, you are journalists. I want you to teach people to be journalists, do the reporting, investigative journalists. And I want you to be protected wherever you are reporting. I want you to gather facts, write them out, take your time, play them there. If it was not the Sudanese system, why should people go after you when you are reporting facts? Of course, in any profession, we should have professional code of conduct. We don't want you to be reckless. And you know that better. You have read ethics. You know that you are accountable. If you're being reckless, you will be accountable for whatever you do, whatever you say. Those are common sense. But because we inherited Sudanese system, you can be a victim for something that cannot be explained to a foreigner. So it's a Sudanese, copy and paste.
Right. The audience, you are watching the virtual launch of The Disconnects, Tribes, Governance and Power in South Sudan by Mayak Deng Aruei. And this is T.S. again hosting the show on behalf of Africa World Books. We are going for a short break. We'll be back. Luan. Peter Luan.
I believe he has gone to
Luan. Luan left it.
We're still live, yeah.
Okay, so let's. There was a comment from Machar at Tim. I just disappeared from the screen, but I will. This is a virtual launch of the Disconnects 5 Governance and Power in South Sudan. New book, latest book written by Mayak Deng Aruei. I'm your host, T.S. Ayun, doing the show on behalf of Africa World Books. Mayak, you also in I think chapter 5 you 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 expounded on missed reform opportunities. I don't know what you mean by that. What were the opportunities, reform opportunities that the South Sudan government missed?
Okay, as a new country, it used to be a new country, no, not anymore. A new country, we should have had a plan for the nation, which would have included reforming the nation army, training the police, making transition from guerrilla leadership, a guerrilla movement, to a state. That was the initial one. And that's why we had 6 years, 2005 to 2011. Now we have a country. We have a parliament, judiciary, legislative assembly. If we have the setup, just like any other country, the country should have gone into fixing every piece in every branch of the government. Let the judiciary be independent. Let the lawmakers do their job. The government should run the country, enforce the law. So that was the first one. The second one is the political system. We have the dominant SPLM. The ruling party should have went through number of transformation before they actually called for election. They waited too long before they do anything. And then they have kick in the power struggle. The deputy chair of the party want to replace the chairman, the president of the country. So people group themselves. They went back to the mentality of the Bush because they have not done the reform. In the transitional period, we had a lot of money coming in. We have the oil, we have the donation, all the goodwill people. They wanted to have us build a country. But you cannot build a country if you don't have the setup. You have to reform. You have to do auditing. Do the auditing in a way that no public fund is misappropriated. All those who have branch off. We don't have a paper trail of where the money has gone. Reform was not done. So how can you really run political races when you have not reformed the fundamental pillars of the state? We miss everything from the formation of the regional government into the independent. But then you think that we're going to get into election to make a change. It was unrealistic. So we missed that opportunity to reform everything before we have the playing ground was not level. Let's say, let me take you back. On December 6th, I was watching the conference of December 6th. That was on the 7th year in the United States.
In 2013.
In 2013. And then I have some friends, they came to our apartment to pick up my first book. And we were chatting. And then, they from, the two tribes. They are friends, but they still have a divided opinion. And then the social media. The social media was being bombarded with some funny commentaries. And then I was like, the way things are, if we reach the end, that was on the 7th. If we reach the end of December 2013 without a gunfire, then God is great. Then on the 15th, fighting erupted in Juba. And one of these guys called me and say, hey man, you cursed the nation. Why did you say something like that? I said, what happened? Well, there is a fighting now. There's a fighting in Gieda. There's fighting here. And then the next thing, Mangal. And then the next day, it was in Bintu. And then Botown. The whole nation was on fire. It was something to be expected. We never had a state army. Let's go back to 2007 in Kenya, when they had the fourth violence. If Kenya did not have a nation army, you know what happened in Eldoret, Banpur, Nakuru, and the rest of. I went there at that time, and I had to take a plane from Nairobi to Eldoret. Because between Nakuru and Nairobi, Eldoret and Nakuru, all these small villages were set on fire. Well, I had a family, I had children in Eldoret. When I left the state here, I was in KLM, double decker. It was empty. Nobody want to go there. Then they signed a trust. Life normalized after I went to Eldoret. The reason Kenya don't go into all-out war is because they have an army, non-tribal. Well, we should have borrowed from a neighboring country to have a non-tribal. You should have people who have allegiance to the nation of South Sudan, not a particular tribe. For example, you and me, somewhere between Torit and Juba, or Numli and Juba. If somebody pick your ID on you, you'll be done. You know about MTN. So we have a problem. Somebody in uniform, when they used to call the SPLA, will take your life for no reason because of your name. So it means this guy has not been trained to be a nation officer. We need to do that. It's never too late. So we have an issue there. So we had the war. Then we had the peace. In 2017, we have young South Sudanese young leaders conference in Kigali. And I posed a question there. People left Juba, East Africa, to go and see the genocide museum or whatever they call center in Kigali. So I posed a question to Dengbo. I say, can you drag my question to Agel Machar? I say, is there any similarity between what happened in South Sudan and what happened in Rwanda in 1994? And there is a video of that. A girl was like, and then he said, no similarity. Why would you go and use a genocide museum if there is no similarity? You know, like you said earlier, everything is our own making. It's our own making. We are on this. Thousands of people will watch it later, and then we have some issue with it. But let's be fair. If we want to have South Sudan as a country to be proud, use its passport to travel around the world and be respected, we have to be non-tribal. We have to protect all life, properties alike. We can do it. We can do it together.
Correct. Listen, audience, this is a virtual book launch book written by Mayak Deng, The Disconnect, Tribes, Governance, and Power in South Sudan. The discussion is based on the chapters. Now, Mayak, you also talked about a role that tribes played during the political turmoil, and you call it political anarchy. Tribes in role of tribes in political anarchy. How did the tribes participate in political anarchy?
The tribe participated in political anarchy. You know, when the war erupted in Juba, people were killed in Bentiu, in Malakal, in Akoba. Majority of these people who died, they died because of the tribe they come from. So tribe play a major role in political anarchy. It is also true that tribe play a role in liberating South Sudan. You know, people went there because their sons, daughters were in the movement. They sent their children to refugee camp, to military bases. They offered their cow, grain. They did it because they want to protect something. So because tribe play major role in liberating South Sudan, they also contributed to the current crisis. What is happening in South Sudan is tribal. We can only lie here that there's nothing like that. But every victim of the war in South Sudan is a victim of tribal thinking, tribal mindset. You know, somebody committed a crime. We have court system. Let them go through the court system. And if they are found guilty, and if the punishment is a death penalty, then it will follow certain procedures. But taking law into our own, it is revenge after revenge. Who revenge? Tribe. Not long ago, when people were chased away in Mogui County because they have cattle. Actually, for some of you watching here, in the 1990s when I was a kid, I spent much of my time between Ame, Opari, Antebi, Owinyabul, Parjok, Polwer, Loboni. I know the area. I know the areas where there are no residential places. You can be like 40 miles away from Panyukwara or Langabu or Kit or Katri. Nobody there. But because of tribe, they just don't want people there for the heck of it. People get killed for the heck of it. So there is a tribal element in whatever is taking place in South Sudan. And nobody is immune. We have to condemn it. We have to get rid of it. We don't want the next generation to pick it up if we want to have South Sudan. Otherwise, all the resources will be taken by the significant others, and our people will be poor forever. We have more money than Kenya, than Uganda. And because of tribal way of running the country, we don't have road, we don't have health facilities. So the tribe themselves play a role in political anarchy.
And why do you describe the government of South Sudan as a leadership without social responsibility?
It's not particularly the government, but all the leaders. All the leaders, they have no social responsibility. If you are replaced today by somebody else, you take up arms, start killing the people you govern. Where is the social responsibility? Because of your position, you will do almost anything to be leader. Where is the responsibility? You are accountable to the people that you are leader of. You have to be mindful that there will be a generation after me. Say 50 years from now, majority of us will not be there. Because how many people live to 100 years? But because we live in a digital age, some of this will be there. We can still watch speeches about John Garang, by John Garang, recorded of him. And we know some of this makes sense. There was one of the speech where he say, we are fighting for this country. I'm just paraphrasing. And there will people who will come and they will take a panga and cut a piece. Well, you know who fought the war and who is cutting a big chunk of piece of the cake, of the national cake. So that is not having the social responsibility. You have to be mindful of the environment and the people coming after you.
Great. Mayak, what made you write this book?
I wrote this book because I know that I lived a life before this life. I was a child and I grew up in a war time, and I went to school in the bushes of South Sudan because I went through all this. I want to write about the past, the present time, and I would also like to envision the future. If we know where we came and what kind of life we're living now, we would predict what kind of life we'll have in the few years to come and what kind of life our children and our grandchildren will have. So I wrote the book particularly to connect the dot, the past, the present, and future. Somebody got to do something. Somebody will have to do something about it. It's not about me. It's about us. It's about our past, our present time, and the future, if we really do have a future, which I do believe we can have a future if we choose to be stable.
All right. For the sake of the audience, of course, you obviously did a research. How long did it? How long did you spend researching?
When my first book was published, I started taking note. And for some of you who are actually watching here, it's a 228 pages. And there are a lot of citation, in-text citation. I read books written by the prominent Sudanese, South Sudanese, and others about Sudan and South Sudan. I have read empirical articles. I have read some report. And in every chapter, while I have the ideas, I have to consult some sources because I would like to be relevant. Every point that is made in the book, it's supported by some source. It's done across the academic field, and I don't want to be the only person who wake up and write some imaginary things. So I did the research. It took me, to be exact, when I have the book title, it was in 2017. The reason it takes that long, you want to bring in the past by doing the research, but then you want to record some event. So you live through the history and you live through the event, and then you present the future. So 2017 to now. And when you have the physical book, I have a cousin. I posted that I wanted to write an article. That was in 2017. It's in the front page. Of course, he's watching here, but he doesn't know that his name is there. And I know majority of people who write here, they don't know they have been quoted. You will be surprised that some of your own writing are quoted somewhere.
Great. Okay, on comments from the audience, Deng Machara Tem says that analysis of South Sudan being in the hands of significant others is absolutely correct. Cheers. Ruben Garang said, since the idea of instilling the spirit of nationhood in people or becoming non-tribal state is not happening because public institutions are dysfunctional, what other means are available for South Sudanese to build a stable and viable country? Okay, that was a question. And General Amolo says, and sells, what, I don't know, he sells it with a bottle of wine. What is that to be sold? General Amolo, please expand on that. Audience, you are watching a show on the virtual launch of the new book, The Disconnects, Tribes, Governance, and Power in South Sudan, written by Mayak Deng Aruei. I'm your host, T.S. Ayuen, doing the show on behalf of Africa World Books. Luan, would you like to play a music for a short break?
There is history and culture between the covers of a book. We'll find what has been and what could come each time that we look. Elders, raise your pens and take a stand. Your ink brings life to South Sudan. If you'll make your mark for those to come, our generations all can join as one. Let's read, break out the books between the lines, finding outlooks and stories of all those who came before you. Feed your brain with knowledge gained from those who lived to liberate South Sudan and left us all with their truth. There are tears from the eyes of our nation. We fear for you. Information is lost when oral culture is what we choose. But Africa World Books knows that we must take a stand. That only history leads us and liberates South Sudan. Let's read, break out the books between the lines, finding outlooks and stories of all those who came before you. Feed your brain with knowledge gained from those who lived to liberate South Sudan and left us all with their truth. encourage the aging generation who fought for South Sudan to write their memoirs so the youth will all understand that our nation is young, but our history's richer than gold. That our people are strong and our stories are worth being told. Let's read, break out the books between the lines, finding outlooks and stories of all those who came before you. Feed your brain with knowledge gained from those who lived to liberate South Sudan and left us all with their truth.
Right.
Let's read, break out the books between the lines, finding outlooks and stories of all those who came before you. Feed your brain with knowledge gained from those who lived to liberate South Sudan and left us all with their truth.
So welcome. Please.
Audience, this is the virtual launch of The Disconnect, Tribes, Governance and Power in South Sudan by Mayak Deng Aruei. And well, can you please explain to our audience who sang the song and the song that you just played, who sang it and what is it about?
Thank you very much. Yes, this is Peter Dengs. Again, the songs is meant for Africa World Books. And the aim is to encourage reading culture because reading culture and also recordings, informations of liberation seem to have been neglected. And it is another war to be fought. So when Africa World Book began the journey, we decided to fight an enemy. And the problem that we encounter is we are trying to get rid of illiteracy. Books have been tried, we have been promoting books in many events, but the information is not getting through. So now some of that is decided to compose songs to encourage or to promote awareness of how important it is for memos to be written, and also to remind veterans who fought for liberation, share their memos before it is being lost. You are very much aware that many of them have gone without memos being written, have been doing an advocacy, talking to people like General Kwalmanyang a couple of years now, that they should record the memos, even if it is in audio, for the benefit of next generation. So the song is for Africa World Book, and there are many songs. Our artists are doing very well. We have the artists, we have the writers, even the rest of us. We will have them soon.
Great, thank you. Mayak, of the 9 chapters of the book, which one was the hardest to write?
Well, I don't think every chapter is hard because you have to do research. You have they have equal weight. I have to tell you that. Unless if you talk of the conclusion, that will be which is the summary. Every chapter is hard. When you take your time to read it, you will know that somebody put a time in there. It's no longer about us, it's about the future. What kind of a state do we want? And what kind of things we went through? And making this piece together is some kind of work. So every chapter has a weight.
All right. So I understand this is your second book. Do you intend on writing another one?
Yes, actually, I would like to be, after I'm done with the things I'm doing now, I'm doing something else. It's tedious, it's time consuming. When I'm done with that, I would like to be writing for the rest of my life. I have to tell you that. I want to be writing for the rest of my life, different topic. Because If I was in a village, I would have been in a cattle composing song. But because I've moved out, no longer there, I have found my passion in writing. And I would like in a lifetime to produce an album about songs. I will have an album because this is what I would have been doing if I were there. But because conditions have changed, I have found my passion in writing. Like, all of us, we play a lot on Facebook, right? We make fun and things like that. But that is only a social media. We have to get into real life. So I would like to be writing for the rest of my life, and I will give you a title. I have a manuscript for 2, but I'll give you one title. My next book is Jing in the Digital Age.
Wow.
Dinka in the Digital Age. So that will be the next book.
Nice. So, what advice would you give writers or those who plan to write their books?
I would like to advise every person who is capable of writing, who is capable of composing songs. And by the way, let me tell our South Sudanese audience, all the songs that have hit on the radios everywhere, there are people who write songs. They write songs for a living. And the television shows that you watch, they are written. There are people who write a script before they are acting upon. So I would like to encourage our South Sudanese people to adopt writing. Even the people who are dancing now, I would want them to write their ideas into a book. Writing is a very important thing. As long as we live, we can only pass down information when they are in a written form. We live in a society where most of the stories are oral. And that's why we have a contested history. We have a contested history. And there are people here, they want to edit. They want to edit the history. You cannot edit the history. All you can do, you can avoid things that happened in the past. So I want people to write things so we don't have a continuous contested history. Our history has to be written down. People like yourself, I wish you can cover the South Sudan Parliament for a number of times and write a book about what you have seen on the floor. How do they act? So I want our journalists not just reporting, but recording history. Let it be public. Also, I want our people to adopt the idea of reading. We play too much on the social media. We are leaving a lot of things in the hang. So all the writers, all the capable people, we want to have a society that has their own or its own, her own stories. Back in the day in Kenya, when they have exam and they have Kenyan name, some of the names that actually is stuck on our mind were the Luo's name. Otieno, Atieno, Ojwang, Owino, all those names stuck, and they were easy. But if you given a different tribe name, you will actually miss the question because of the name. So what they did when they start formulating exam within the camp, they put in Deng, Akwal, Achol, and the reading become even more easy. So we want our people to write their own stories. and be teaching their own kid about their country, their cultures in their own way.
Great. Okay, audience, we are about to end the show, but General Molo finally responded to one of the chapters, Leadership Without Social Responsibility, and he quotes Dr. John Grant. Uh, and the quote says, after we fought this war, some people who are enjoying good life outside will come later and cut a large piece of land with a panga and sell it with a bottle of wine. I think that's what you were trying to refer to also.
Yeah, that's what I was trying. Yeah, that's why I say I'm only paraphrasing. I remember the panga and cutting the piece and selling it for whatever.
Right.
And it is actually happening. I wish the younger kid, let's say, majority of the people here, they have kids in college, born after 2002 or in 2002. These people are grown. These kids are grown up. I have a grown-up son. He's already in college. But he's actually here now. But the things I'm talking about will sound more like utopia. He has never been to South Sudan. He's a grown-up man. And, he had a copy of my previous book, and I want him to have a copy of this. I'm not going to read line by line, but as part of his college reading, sharing with a friend, I want him, it's not about me. The title is for me, it's about me, it's my name, but the stories are South Sudanese. So we want our South Sudanese, we live in a global village. I was telling a cousin in Bo Town a couple of years ago, I say, if I leave US here for Juba and you are in Panyago, and I say, okay, can we meet in Juba? I will arrive before somebody from Panyago will arrive in Juba. Minus the instant messaging. We are on live Facebook, right? Some years ago, we were not there. We can see people doing the trading now in Juba, everywhere. People, they go live in the cattle camp. So why don't we? Okay, I want to take another quote from John Garang. He was talking to a group of people and say, when we have the new Sudan or South Sudan or whatever, we will not start where other nations started. We will start where the nation are. People go live in Juba. You go live in Nairobi, you go live in Australia, go live in the US. The location are different. The environment are different, but you have the same technology. So if we have that in the village, in Bolia, in Bo Town, anywhere, so why can't we have the same road? Why can't we have the same structures, infrastructures, everything that we needed? But we can only go so far if we have the will. We have the will to move together. We have the will to create a future from scratch. We have the will to sacrifice resources, time. We should have the will to stabilize. We should have the will to live in peace. We should have the will to cheer. Let's cheer among ourselves. There is a problem with cheering. We should have the will to respect life, respect properties. We should have the will to let people have freedom of expression. Is enshrined in our constitution. Let's have the will. For example, if you are to teach in John Garang in Bo Town or University of Juba or Alan Neil, if you have limitation of what to teach, if you cannot talk about corruption, if you cannot talk about misappropriation of public money, if you cannot talk about mismanagement, What are you going to teach people? If you cannot cite it, wrong thing done by people in power, abuse of power, what are you going to teach people? If people think certain things are so sensitive that people should not talk about, are we going to change? Well, the best way to do it, let's talk out all the bad things. And let us not do them again. This is how we change. We should not repeat mistake of the past. And this is, like earlier I said, I'm going to talk about the macro. The fine detail, the micro, you have to read on your own. They are there. There is a time put in here, about 20-something pages of this one. It's a consulted sources. So if you get a book, just go all the way to the end. You will recognize some of the name. And the book has been indexed. You can read the index and go to where your interest is. Just pick the name and read where the page it is found. Where is John Garang Salva-Kiir Imaja? And by the way, anybody, anyone who have been part of controversy in South Sudan, in one way or the other, is in that book.
I saw Paul Malong is there. I saw so many names. So so anyone who is interested should buy the book. But how do we get the book?
The books is available globally. It's available on Amazon America, Australia, and UK, even the Walmart in America. Also, the copies are going to be available in Nairobi and Juba as well. Let me just ask two of you, you are authors. And one thing that we are experiencing is lack of reading culture. There are some of the books here, we have had them for over 5 years. Our South Sudanese don't have interest of reading what is written by South Sudanese. And I wonder, how can we encourage the reading culture? Or let's say the sale, because without people buying books, it is not sustainable. And sometimes very discouraging for an author to put in much effort and resources and eventually get no returns. How do we tell our people that also they want books to be given free? Last year we shipped over 4,600 books to South Sudan through Jamistad. Some of them are still with the authors, no one want to buy, but they want to take book free. Is it possible to give books away free?
Personally, I will. Okay.
Let me respond first.
Okay.
When I read about the South Sudan National Examination for Secondary School this year, we have a lot of students. I want to share something here. We have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands children in primary school and high school. I would like South Sudan watching in East Africa. If you want our people to know the country that they were born into, that they will be proud, I encourage you people to buy the book written by South Sudanese and ship them to all the primary school and the secondary school. I'll tell you what, we are not experienced writers, but I can tell you one thing. You may not like politics of certain individual, but I can tell you there are prominent South Sudanese writers. They have books that can actually feed our nation to have a better future. You have a book written by Lemakol, Adwok Nyaba, Dr. Francis Mading, Dr. Lual. All this book and others, please order them, gather some money. We are not here to make money. We are here to pass down information. Let's have a culture whereby we put money together, order all these books. I have it for all of you here. I started a culture of reading. I have a library. I have 146 books. They are not from college. Do not read textbook and think you know a lot. There is more out there than the textbook. I have all the book from book written by Deng Niao and Joseph Woodward. It's a very small book. The problem of Southern Sudan. Garang Mobile define is a problem of the Sudan. And you know about self-determination. You know who sang the song called Self-Determination. It's a chapter in Deng Nial and Woodward book. It's a chapter, but somebody took it as his own and used it. It's a chapter. The book was published in 1961. The second one came out. And by the way, if you have not read a book by Justice Abelalia, please read it. It's a better read. You will be surprised that some of the stories from your own cattle camp are actually in that book. They say, do not judge the book by its cover. And the people I have mentioned, they have been cited here. They have a story to tell. They have been cited. Every South Sudanese that you think have written a book has been cited here. We have to connect the dot. And some songs have been quoted. Actually, let me go back again. I believe Panchol Deng Ajang is a great artist. I don't know whether somebody has shown him, but I was the first person to put his song in a book. I don't think somebody has shown him since 2013. His song is in my book. This is how you do it. You translate it and put it into a book. And I know in the future, because I know he has some, but in the future, his kids, they will find their father in the book. If you have songs about South Sudan, the government, your tribal pride, I have quoted you. I believe that we can pass down history by writing. Let's adopt the culture of bringing history closer to our people, so we don't have a recurrence of contested history. And let's teach our people. Let's volunteer. And by the way, I have to tell you, South Sudan is a nation of foreigners. And you'll be surprised why. You have all these kids, they grew up in refugee camp in Kenya and Uganda and Sudan. Majority of them. They have a little bit of culture from the East Africa, North Africa. They all end up being South Sudanese. If you don't forge one national identity, these people are foreigners to themselves. They are foreigners to themselves. So for us to have one national identity, we have to teach people that you went to this place, you were born in this place because of the war. Now we have the country. And by the way, on a different note, I was on a different show, and we talk about how the state of Israel came to be what it is today. You know, you read the Bible. We know more about Bible than we know about ourselves. If we can read the Bible, why can't we read our own? You know, the 12 tribes in Israel that made up the state of Israel, majority of them lived like 1,000 years ago. But because they have a written history, they went back into the history book and they say, the place that used to be called Judea, it falls between this river and this river. So this place is our ancestral land. We want to be there. We need your help. We want to go back. It is written here in the Bible, and there is a map here. What if there was no writing? Do you think people who are now proud Israel would be where they are? They would not. So let's write our history, teach it to our people so they come back home. You are a South Sudanese by blood, you know different languages, or you don't even know a tribal language, it is okay. You can be a South Sudanese. We want you to trace your history, come back home. The only way to do it, some of this book, we put map in the book deliberately. We put the map and we put important location for a reason. Because some days, 20 years from now, people not born will look at the book. Let's say before the British came, the Italians were in Africa, the missionaries. You know about Daniel Comboni. He was the leader of the mission. And his mission came in 1841. When they came, there were no countries. There were no countries. So this tribe were called the nation state. And they documented. They say this tribe is found in this degree, is found in this, between these rivers and things like that. So when the colonial powers came, because what they did, they sent the religious group to do the exploration. And then they came in with their power. And then things came like that. So now if you go back to the history, you will know, oh, they used to live here and there was a mission here. Somebody here would correct me. When they put the mission in Opari in 1903, the Episcopalian mission, before he went to Malek, it was in Opari. There is a cathedral in Opari. It's not far away from me. It was in 1903. Because they have a map there. I would have known myself. I knew that there was a mission in Opari, but I did not know that it was established in 1903 until I read some report. And some of these reports they are housed in a very prominent universities like Durham. They have all these stories about us. You will be surprised that you will find some pictures from the past cameras stored there. Let's go back. You know about the rod called the Little Pio. It was taken in 1945. And then they took it to Khartoum and then to London. It was returned to South Sudan in 1971 or 72. And you know about the Mundeng rod. It was taken in 1906. So they took it to Khartoum to London. It was brought back in 2009. And people celebrated. It
Right.
a piece of metal. Because
Yeah.
somebody traced it. They traced it, they put it in the museum. So even now, I really don't mind. We can reconstruct the thing that we used to call Saturn, whether it is a drum and make a museum. Reconstruct them and put them in a museum. This is how, because people have been named after this. And places have been named after this. So this is part of the history. But we don't have a history. Everything will be, it will be lost. And we don't know. For example, there was somebody here who ran for presidency. And I have to tell you something here. I met a guy here some years ago. And he said, where are you from? He said, I'm from here. What race are you? He said, hey man, my great-grandfather is African. My mother is a Native American. My other grandmother is a Chinese. And then I said, what race are you? And he was like, you know what? I don't even know what the hell I am. Because there's no written history. And somebody here in the state ran for presidency. And he wanted to trace, it's a prominent surgeon. So he traced, he said, okay, let me do it, because he has money. He went back all the way and traced his DNA. He's a Turkana. It's a Turkana. And you know, maybe in
Uh,
1860s. So
okay, Mayak,
so
Yeah.
I will end it there.
for yeah,
I put this background because if we have writing,
yeah,
we will very easily trace our history.
yeah.
Right.
For the interest of
But-
time, you know, this item were brought from South Sudan 40, I think 45 years ago by the former chief delegate of the Red Cross. And some people who grew up in the refugees camp may not even know the use of these things. So you guys are right. So yeah,
okay.
here's your
Okay. Before I hand over the show to end it, I would like to remind the audience that Mayak was trying to tell us why we should read, especially South Sudanese books. And well, I think I'm not going to speculate on why South Sudanese do not like reading. I would love Africa World Book to organize a show like this for us to interact, the readers and the writers to interact. I would love them to explain to us maybe why some of them do not like our writings, our books. Is it because maybe we write poorly, or is it because maybe they already know what we write about? So it would be great for Africa World Books to organize a show for writers and audience. Whoever is interested, we talk about we talk about writing and leadership. So I hand over the show to you to end it.
yeah,
How readers will get the book and another book.
yeah. So I would like to take this chance to thank the viewers and also TSUN for the great job and Mayak Deng. We shall be having book discussions on, I think, on weekly basis. It is something that we have decided to do. So we will have many interviews. Even people like Dr. Lama Cole, we have got two of his books. They will come anytime. People like Douglas Johnson, people like Dr. Francis, and many other authors. People like Victor Lugala. We thought that it is another way of creating awareness among our people. So well done, Mayaks and T.S. Ayuans. T.S. is also an author who has written a very interesting book. We will not talk about it now, but maybe sometime later. So his books is available here. In case if you need any books published by most
Well, you are. I can hardly hear you.
Your network is cutting off.
Mine
are
or
available
his?
No,
globally,
he's
exposed
Yeah.
to over 38,000 distribution outlets worldwide, and they're very economical, so they don't cost much. Books are also if they're not documented, there are risks of those stories being lost. So let's encourage not only readings but also recording things for the benefit of next generations. So thank you very much. We'll end the show. I will just put some song on, then try to share the video and join us anytime. This is going to be put on the YouTube. For you to watch it also. Thank you.
thank you very much for having
Bye
me
bye.
tonight.
Bye bye. Thank you.
DJ yana liar in a bular pop, DJ Gali, Ita Bolden from Bumi, promoter Dr. Wina. Titor mading demu titor wala jegel wal kuluka biong ding African wild moon, African mayeto, goodbye the beer, goodbye let me. Lor mading dem di tol wala ide wal kuluka tiong ding kaya mi kan wan aku kun kaya to be bai na ye be bai la tu kona nom yo mara lan di Sudan kona nom yo mara lan kemana aku nom yo mara lan di Sudan kona nom yo mara lan kemana kaya kilan ye kalbun yang ini kena jumpa pendekan yang wan kelayu yang alam biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin kau war biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin yang alam biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin kau war biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin. Nom yin kamu kal kaman panda kuyayin painok pijiri nom yin kuyanai kaman panda yawana kanya wur kanya patin kuni mamari patin sudah kini bangira lijabin yawana kanya wur kanya patin kuni sudah kini bangira lijabin. Kuyayin kwer kejiri nom kuyin kamu kal kaman panda kuyayin painok kejiri nom kuyin kuyanai kaman panda yawana kanya wur kanya patin kuni mamari patin sudah kini bangira lijabin yawana kanya wur kanya patin kuni mamari patin sudah kini bangira lijabin. Kona nom yo mara lan Sudan kona nom yo mara lan Kemana aku nom yo mara lan Sudan kona nom yo mara lan Kemana kaya kilan ye kalbun yang ini kena jiwa pendidikan yang lain pendidikan kelayu yang alam biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin kau war biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin yang alam biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin kau war biadu kumi mandau ya kebaikin.
give your tongue a jam. I will buy a mar, will guide you a marga bagato. We will look when yellow you wedding. Will Galwell African well books. Goodbye. We'll go get a opinion while I'm waiting. Got to me young, I don't want to got you my lips, Kususan Jambo. Well, God will African well books. Who can get a opinion victory? I do it then. Who did Tor guy who didn't attack? My young thing that way, who quit a garang, my young thing. Will God will African well books. Will go by guy will African well books. Goodbye. We'll go get a opinion while I'm waiting. Got to me young, I think when young Nalo. Got you my lips, Kususan Jambo. Will God will African well books. Who can get a opinion victory? I do it then. Who did Tor guy who didn't attack? My young thing that way, who quit a garang, my young thing. Will God will African well books. Will go by guy will African well books. South Sudan. Bika million by Bika Panda Nia.
Production.
Cause on you get down and younger and I'm a pure bugabee. What you down, you down, I'm a pure bugabee. The way you put the way you did, when I burn me to know how to be. You know, burn me to know I jealous. New Sudan, burn me, you know, Piala Granny came. Bukola ke bene ke chup nam wan ke tiane John garang nama bu jak bendi ku ba ke pada gwir gimana wan kor John temen kor jagwede nyale jangira den ti jak na ngadono wer de wa ko nyama binda yu weda jakan konyo John sondagala ta konyo what the ball alere jedeng atemi yang atin ila bebo kwen tiu Sudan abetuga kukul pande abiar chagwe jangara ngamabi ijawala jeto kudok nengengen wejenang ni wedya wakecheng da chamero mi gejeno doka kukul jalun we Dikor banyak jeto kwenye webetu panda wakecheng da chamero mi gejeno doka kukul jalun we Coba jaga ademi yang atem kaya will bumi wadwani pindah ademi yang atem anyok kwer buki janyo gelik negalam Ya boy jaga ademi yang atem kaya will bumi wadwani pindah Luale rey de denga nyot kwer buki janyo gelik negalam Nyale jangiran den ti jag no aduno wer e wa konye mala bila yu weda jagen konyo yon zonda gela ta konyo wadu bolo alere jeding atemi yang atim mira bebo kwen New Sudan abetuga kukul kepande kate anja nyoro ka kindiri New Sudan ani mare chang panda Nega wawa kekul kumil kena kila dira aku tonga aku panda yo kemil jang kaya jaga moto ikibai ni arbia kwena kekul kepanden kekaya kul kegerawin bi baike Yale jangiran den ti jag no aduno wer wa konye mele pinda yu weda jaken konyo John sondagala ta konyo What the ball alere jeding atemi yang atim mila bebo kwen New Sudan abetuka kekul kepande Genum Sudan apanda kujabetuka kekul kepande wan yarba What the ball alere jeding atemi yang atim mila bebo kwen New Sudan abetuka kekul kepande Genum Sudan apanda kujabetuka kekul kepande wan yarba What the ball alere jeding atemi yang atin mila bebo kwen New Sudan abetuga kekul kepande Genum Sudan apanda kujabetuga kekul kepande wan yarba What the ball alere jeding atemi yang atin mila bebo kwen New Sudan abetuga kekul kepande